3. Her research interests lie at the intersection of space traffic management, safe autonomous systems in space, and space policy.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, my name is Grace. I'm a third-year PhD candidate in the Stanford Intelligent Systems Laboratory. And here I'm going to present our work with our co-authors, Semi-Decentralized Multi-Spacecraft, collision-avoidance under communication constraints. So we all know space is getting quite crowded. We have more conjunction alerts, close approach notifications raising every year. And in 2023, the 18th Space Defense Squadron generated more than 600,000 conjunction data messages per day, which is roughly 3 times the 2020 rate. We also know that collision avoidance is now becoming a routine operational activity. Starlink alone performed over 145,000 collision avoidance maneuvers in the first half of 2025, which is about 4 maneuvers per satellite per month. Now with this, every conjunction event, there's going to be a growing need for coordination across multiple operators. So from here, as orbital traffic increases, collision avoidance becomes not only a trajectory planning problem, it becomes an information coordination problem. So now, let's discuss today's collision avoidance workflow for spacecraft operators. So the conjunction, as we all know, first arrives through data sources such as SpaceTrack, the 18th Space Defense Squadron, or other commercial SDA providers. And from here, each operator now assesses their conjunction risk separately with varying internal risk thresholds, mission constraints, and human/autonomous-like operational tools. From here, let's plan the candidate mover for each of these operators. But from here, now you have to upload these maneuvers at the available ground contacts available, for example, varying ground schedules. And you kind of have to now hope that at this kind of closest approach, you actually get to a point where the conjunction is mitigated and nothing actually happens then. But there's several things here, several limitations. First, there's uncertainty throughout the process. First, there's imperfect observations, poorly calibrated variances, and nonlinear maneuver propagations. But also the bigger problem that we're addressing in this paper is the limited coordination aspect. Different operators use different thresholds, tools, and policies, and this delay in maneuver intent might actually cause problems down the line if it's unavailable to the other operators. So this problem ends up becoming a place where operators face the same conjunction, but different decision contexts. Now, individual reasonable decisions can now produce pretty uncoordinated joint responses. So, typically, if we now look at this as a multi-agent problem, the literature kind of now spans across these 2 domains. There's these decentralized realm where now operators act independently and not really coordinate with one another. And there's also the centralized realm of multi-agent planning where there's continuous coordination all the time. You always have the same information available to both people. But real operations typically lie in between this kind of range. And we kind of want to see how, in practice, coordination is really not just absent or continuous, it's like in this middle domain, ensuring when operators get updated information about their spacecraft. And this is usually affected by when they have ground communication windows available to them. So we need a framework that actually models when this information becomes available and uses opportunities for the actual planning process. So this is our solution, semi-centralized planning, where we now model ground station contacts as synchronization opportunities within the decision-making process as a semi-decentralized, partially observable Markov decision process. And now we're actually focusing specifically on the operational planning process period immediately following after the conjunction notification, where now multiple operators must rapidly construct this coordinated avoidance strategy under uncertainty before their maneuver execution. So let's go through the problem setup. Let's first frame the sequential joint decision-making problem of spacecraft collision avoidance. There's 2 active spacecraft currently approaching in that conjunction, and there's a finite set of decision opportunities before that time of closest approach. Now our objective is to maintain that safe distance at the time of closest approach while minimizing the trajectory deviation. And for anyone who's not familiar with POMDPs in the audience, we're going to go over that really quick. A partially observable Markov decision process is a mathematical framework for modeling sequential decision-making problems under uncertainty. And this is commonly used as a framework for reinforcement learning, if you've ever heard of it in that context. So now, in this POMDP, we always have like a state of our environment. This is often hidden and not available to the agents beforehand. We usually take observations of this state, typically with a sensor, as we have with our own ground network here too. And this informs what actions we want to take based on our belief of what this hidden state is. So now, depending on how well we did an action based on this hidden state, we're then given the appropriate rewards based on how well we did. And this is now just like a sequential decision-making problem. You feed this into the next states. It just keeps going on and on and on. And now at this point, since we understand POMDPs, let's go into how this changes in a semi-decentralized POMDP. So, now instead of a single agent, we have multiple spacecraft, right? There's two. And this is now a multi-agent problem, which provides joint actions. At every single decision stage, there are 9 possible joint actions as each spacecraft can, 1, maneuver positive along track, maneuver negative along track, or just not have a maneuver at all. And we're now modeling this specifically as just impulsive along track maneuvers to provide some relative phasing control to increase that miss distance at the time of closest approach. And now from here, our actual state, we want to track the relative geometry of our satellites through the miss distance at TCA. There are definitely more typical things in the literature for probability of collision, but we focus on miss distance in this scenario. And here, we actually take a little bit of a shortcut. There's a relative geometry of the conjunction that we can track by looking at specifically this along track offset position at the time of closest approach. We specifically model this specific aspect to reduce our computational complexity here. And what's kind of interesting is that for most of the circular low Earth orbit regions that we're considering in this paper, the perpendicular components from the normal radial directions actually stay pretty constant. So since impulse maneuvers stay in that long track direction, there's limited effect on this perpendicular direction at the time of closest approach whenever you do apply a maneuver. So just highlight that there. We just reduced a whole bunch of complexity by having now a single scalar that we need to track during this decision-making problem. Now the reward that we just talked about. How do we now balance what we want to measure? We want to balance, 1, the risk. We don't want to have, as you see, this kind of large cliff in the left side with the red line. That's specifically telling us how much penalties that the agents will get if they have a very close miss distance at TCA. In comparison, there's now also how much we deviate from the optimal trajectory that we're also tracking in the purple line here. And since this reward is like fully parameterized, the risk and trajectory deviation functions can be made really adaptable to every operator's priority. And now zooming in this region further, we show that in our setup, there's like a little optimum at the 5-kilometer safety threshold mark so that we can avoid unnecessary deviation, but have like the actual conjunction mitigated at that like 5-kilometer conjunction rating threshold blocks. Okay, so from here now we have our joint observations that we talked about of both spacecraft. But this is a semi-decentralized POMDP. We don't always get joint observations at every single decision stage. So when there's no ground contacts available, there is no joint observation that is modeled in our setup here between the spacecraft. So let's look at when actually this information can be shared between agents. So going back to our decision-making timeline here, we have our conjunction, which arrives in the CDM here. And there's these decentralized decision-making stages where we don't have ground contacts. But now let's compute the ground contacts for each operator. That's a pretty easy operation to do. We have contact windows that are available at these varying schedules. Using these contacts, we can derive the synchronization schedule available to us, where we now extend all the different contacts into the decision-making timeline, and find when both spacecraft are contacted at these different decision-making horizons. We then encode the synchronization stages into our planning horizon at the end of the second contact. This is a little bit of a reduction in some of the operational parts within this, but we can go over that more in the questions. So from here, we show that the visibility from the ground station contact windows define when both spacecraft transition between decentralized execution and synchronized decision-making. This alternating information structure is captured in the synchronization schedule in this semi-decentralized POMDP. So now let's actually see this in action. We have on the left side when we have decentralized kind of working here, and on the right side when we have synchronizing points that actually let us centralize our beliefs. So start off with that decentralized execution. There's no shared observations. Adding in specifically those ground contact points that are available to us, that little green boxes here, we now see that the trigger synchronization points and share observations along that point of the decision-making process. And now the spacecraft are now moving between this decentralized execution portion as well as a centralized coordination stage throughout the planning horizon. And from here, since we have this full mathematical formulation, there's a lot of really great tools for us, such as this offline solver from my co-author, Madi, approximate recursive small step semi-decentralized A star, which should help us create an offline solution for this. So by the time we get that conjunction, we can put our formulation into this offline solver, have a specific plan for both spacecraft to use as maneuver policies, and then now just upload those policies before the 24-hour mark for each spacecraft to make sure that they know exactly what they need to do at every single point along those ground station communication timelines. And just highlight again, this is the 24 hours before TCA. And with that policy that's given from this offline solver, which is pre-computed, it can now actually update their beliefs independently between these contacts and reconcile them during that ground station communication points. So let's go over the experimental setup. I know I'm a little short on time here. From here, we have our different conjunction scenarios. We built out a synthetic set of conjunctions ranging over different reference altitudes, encounter missed distances, as well as the encounter plane crossing angles here. And we're focusing on the near circular LEO areas in here because we need to have that consistent ground station communication timeline. And also we have our ground station network that we set here, 6 geographically distributed KSAT stations, pretty distributed, but on the smaller network size just to make sure that we still have gaps between windows. And for both experiments, both spacecraft use the same network for simplicity, but the stakeholders give us different contact schedules. Now let's go into our experiments. So there's 3 different things that we look at, and I'll focus first on the decentralized, semi-decentralized, and centralized locations here. So first we want to check what is the difference in performance when we actually solve it without having these different communication opportunities. So looking at this, we can see that first the based on the various initial distances, the decentralized setup here, I know it's a little hard to read because it's red, is actually quite broad in terms of where it ends up. This is because of the fact that the beliefs of the 2 different operators diverge. They're not able to converge at the various decision points along their timeline. In comparison, semi-centralized and centralized, I'm not sure if you can tell from the colors in this plot, they're actually overlapping almost exactly in their performance. So even with us reducing the amount of contact points available to the semi-decentralized state with only ground contacts, we can actually ensure that they have the same performance as when you are constantly in operation, sharing information together with the different operators. So that's the main takeaway here. But now, we can't always be having large ground contact schedules. It might actually be helpful to figure out when's the actual critical synchronization opportunities that we want to focus on. So here we actually, in this paper, you can look at it more in the actual algorithms there itself. But we have like a greedy contact, like peeling mechanism here, where we slowly took out each of the different contacts available in the ground station schedule and figured out there's actually a kind of an optimal point of where maneuvers should, or when observations should be shared between operators. Where observations should be shared between operators to ensure that you actually have basically the same performance as like always sharing information, but you only need this one point to ensure that you actually get that same performance. Now, the last thing here, we also compared this with representative operator heuristic policies, ranging from operators that might work on thresholds where they only maneuver based on a specific threshold set to them, and then specifically when they have a fixed timeline of when they actually do maneuvers 7 hours before their approach, as well as a self-optimized method as well. So, we're kind of close. So, just skipping through this is basically what we went through today. And if you have any other questions, please check out my LinkedIn, but also paper link, the most updated version is up here. So thank you so much.